everyone, it's Lucy and it is day 17 of the Advent calendar, and today I just want to bring you something that I've created, and I'm going to show you the process. It's actually an aged piece of watercolor paper with an illumination on it. So I really love illuminations of letters and things like that in old manuscripts, and I'm going to show you a really easy way to do it, or create one that you can put into your own journals. So this piece of paper now will actually go into a journal as a page. And so what we need for this activity is we need a tea bag with tea. You could have had your cup of tea and then taken the tea bag out. Of course, do it before you put milk in if you have milk. I've used some felt pens, and I've also used my printer on my computer. So I've used an inkjet printer. Laser printers are a little bit harder to get watercolor paper through, but if you've got an inkjet printer, or you can take it down the road to somewhere who can put it through their inkjet printer, this is how I've done it. So I'm going to show you step by step. I hope you enjoy, and I really hope you enjoy day 17 of the Advent calendar. Thanks. Okay, so one of the first things you're going to do is open a Microsoft Word document, and we're going to put a J, so, or whatever letter you want to have. So I'm going to get that J, and I'm going to go up here to the sizing, and I'm going to make it the biggest I can. But it only goes up to 72 on mine, and I want it to be quite a bit larger than that. So I'm going to type in 200. Okay, so then I need to find a letter style that sort of is something that I can use for this particular design. So I'm going to use Algeria. So actually not Alexa. So Algerian is the one I'm using. So I'm going to do my J in Algerian, and then I'm going to start typing joy, but I don't want it that large. I'm then going to choose a letter style that I would like that to be. So I'm going to use Alexa Standard, and then I'm going to go over the top, and I'm going to take it down to about, in this case, I'm going to use 48. And I don't want the OY close to the J because I'm going to draw a square around the J. So I'm just going to push it one step over. Then I'm going to just type the rest of it. Now, what's really important is this J, if we print it out in black, we will end up with the J. You won't be able to do much with it. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn that J to a mid-grey. Leave the other writing as black, or you can do them as a grey as well and then write over it with a pen, but in this case we're going to print it out in this. Now we're going to print it out on watercolor paper, so just put your watercolor paper into the feed tray of your printer, and I'm using like I said, an inkjet printer. And most modern inkjet printers do not bleed, so especially if you dry the image first. So I'm just now going to print this straight onto my watercolor paper. Okay, I've printed my piece of watercolor paper out, and I've just cut it down a little bit so you can see that the joy to the world, or the oi to the world, is darker and the J is quite light. Okay, and the reason I want it light is we're going to do an illumination of it. So the first thing I want you to do is draw a square around the letter. So whatever looks comfortable around the letter. And then I'm going to use my pen. And this is a waterproof, fade-proof pen, so it needs to be a waterproof one. And I'm going to draw the square in. I'm a real fan of the illuminated letters in old manuscripts, so I really quite like this technique. Okay, make that line a bit thicker. And now this is the fun bit. Have a look at some old manuscript illuminations on manuscripts, and that will give you some ideas. But I'm going to put some leaves in this one. So I think I'm going to put a lovely tulip coming up from the J, or some leaves. Actually, they look more like leaves. I'm going to draw my J in. So this is, with the grey, you can actually see where it is to trace it, which makes it really easy. And I'm going to take the J. Okay. If you're lucky enough to actually have a book with illuminations, you can just scan one of those and put them in here rather than actually drawing them yourself. However, it is fun to draw them yourself. Put some big leaves in the corner. And illuminations love scrolls, so I'm just going to do some nice scrolls. So basically I'm using my pen to draw some lines to make it more decorative. And there is no right or wrong here. You can make it quite busy. I think that's good enough. So what I'm going to do now is age my paper, which I'm going to do before I colour it. But the first thing I'm going to do is dry this off. Sorry. First thing we're going to do is dry this off, because that will still bleed, because it needs to be quite dry and it's quite humid here today. Now I've got some cold tea in a tea bag that I did make my cup of tea with first, so you don't have to waste a tea bag. And I'm just going to go through with my tea bag now and colour the background. And that just gives it a really nice old world look. Maybe squeeze some out. Okay. Let there be blotches like this, because you want to make it look like really old paper. So I'm just going to make a bit of noise and heat it with the heat gun. Okay, I have my beautiful tea-stained artwork, and I'm just going to rip the outside of it now, because I want to put this in my journal. So I'm just tearing around the outside to make it just a little bit like it was found somewhere. So I've just teared around the outside. Now you can also age this now. You can use some ink around the outside, which I'll do in a minute. But I just want to quickly show you, it's nice now to actually make this by computer. So I'm just going to make it a little bit irregular with my pen. And I'm going to add some little bits here and there. So even though I've used the computer, I'm going to try to age the actual look of it, just by doing some wobbly lines along it. So not each letter is exactly the same. You can put a little curve in, make it look like a real calligraphy pen has done it. It doesn't take long, but it can make it look a little bit more like you've actually written it with a calligraphy pen. And also that it's kind of aged. Okay, so this way it doesn't look quite like it's so much like it's computerized. I'm going to add a little bit more detail to this J. And with felt pen, I'm now going to colour some of these leaves. I'm going to use this felt pen to go around the edge and give it that darker kind of burnt look. These are Tombow markers that I'm using, which I really, really like. So I'm just going around the edge. I'll show you a trick to make it all blend in a minute. So Tombow markers, if you haven't used them, are water-based and they do bleed with water. So I'm now actually going to use some of the tea water. I'm just going to wet it down and it will bleed a little bit. And you get much more of that burnt look. And I'm using actually the water from my tea bag to give it a little bit of an extra. And you can see that's really starting to look like a burnt edge of some manuscript that we found. Okay. And a lot of manuscripts had reds in the background, so I'm going to use some lovely red again. Also because it's Christmas. And you'll see again, if I use my brush, I want to actually make it look a little bit like it's really old and it's bled, so the colour has actually travelled. And you can see with these Tombow pens you can really make that happen easily. You can do this with almost any felt pen, but Tombows just seem to do it better. So we've got that beautiful illumination now, and I'm going to do gold in a minute. Okay, no illumination is complete without some gold. Now I've let this do the bleeding and everything. I'm really liking that because I want it to look old. But what I've got now is I've got some Robertson & Co. liquid metals, and this is my absolute favourite gold paint, and it comes from London, from an art store. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to paint the actual letter J in. Any gold paint would do though, but I just particularly like this gold. Now I'm going to paint over the whole J, and once it's dry I'm going to go around the edge again. So we just really need some gold leaf when we're doing illuminations. And I'm going to even put a little bit down the sides of this red, because I did like their gold leaf in the day. So a bit on the leaves. Now these go beautiful in your journals, especially if you're writing a story or you've found some old photos that would really go lovely with this. So I've put my gold, washing my brush in the tea, and I'm going to just dry off my gold. Okay, to finish it off, my gold is dry now. I'm just going to go through and fix the lines because they were very accurate. So anytime if you've gone over the gold, over the line with the gold, just go through and make sure it's nice and perfect. So you didn't have to draw any of this lettering. So anyone who has a fear of lettering, you didn't have to draw any of this. This is a very simple one. I do much more elaborate ones, of course, but it's a way of starting, and you can do all sorts of things in backgrounds, hash lines and things like that. But I hope you enjoyed this video on creating an illuminated antique piece of paper for in your journals. So enjoy, and joy to the world. Thank you.